Hello, welcome to Navigating to Success. I'm Jeff Carlton, Focal Point Business and Executive Coach, and I'm extremely happy to have with me a fellow businessman working out of the Salt Lake City Valley and former Wyoming native, and also a vet. Kenneth Brenneman. Um, so you've got a so Ken, welcome first off.
Thank you for having me, Jeff.
Yeah, you bet. Kenneth has a ton of stuff going on. Founding and managing partner of Mountain Crest Investment Partners, CEO and founder of Main Street Bond. Um, had done some stuff with Goldman Sachs, and what a journey. Take us through. Tell us what you're doing now.
Yeah, now I actually just founded another business, which is called My Family Office Partners. I've got or My Family Office Partner, excuse me, have a few great partners in that business, and we just saw kind of a gap in the market for, people that, especially entrepreneurs that, are making enough money to be comfortable but don't really know how to invest and how to grow that wealth, and to provide them with the services for tax and estate planning, as well as investment opportunities. So,
Um, any specific type of business or just
no. And so one of the things that I've learned, in just quick life story is, as you said, I grew up in Wyoming, ended up playing a little bit of college football, a little bit of college rugby, and founding my first business right after returning from active duty in 2010, which was a great time to start a business if everyone remembers that. Ended up growing it to about 75 employees within the first year, while going to college for micromolecular biology. And ended up selling that business and decided that the med school route wasn't for me and ended up going the business route. So I've run businesses in everything from dog treats all the way to software as a service. So for me, I don't focus on a niche of business because all businesses in essence are the same on the inside. It's how you can sell it and how you can actually solve the world's problems with
yeah, and I love that take and that attitude is that, business is about making money, but at its core, it's also about making your community and the world, better somehow. Um, what a great core value to carry with and help guide the business. So I really appreciate that. So how big, give me an idea of the scale of all these enterprises that you're managing at once.
it. Yeah. So Main Street Bond is a crowdfunding portal. It's a FINRA and SEC accredited crowdfunding portal. And one of those things that I saw was that small businesses just didn't have access to capital. So currently with that one, I have 3 employees, um, that kind of help run small businesses through debt offerings. I actually rewrote the Merton model, if all of us remember that from finance class, which values corporate bonds. I rewrote it to be able to value small businesses and small businesses actually to be able to offer bonds to the public. The big thing about Main Street Bond is it allows unaccredited investors, which if any of you are out there know, to go find investors, you have to go and you have to look through and verify their accreditation status. Main Street Bond allows unaccredited investors, because of the way that we do our due diligence and everything else, to actually invest in small and local businesses. So that one has 3. Mountain Crest Investment Partners has myself plus 4. I don't want to say hired guns, but that's kind of what they are right now. They're working on a 1099 basis, and then I have a board of 6 advisors that helps me grow all these ventures. With My Family Office Partners, we have set it up kind of in separate, distinct businesses. So we have my portion, which is asset management. Currently, I have 5 employees there, and we're onboarding approximately 115 clients.
Wow. Um, so it sounds like you're taking um, large corporate financing opportunities to the common man?
So with Main Street Bond, that's exactly what I'm doing. And that allows, obviously, for all of us business owners, the cheaper the cost of capital, the better, right? Now,
Right.
the other thing is that rather than take your money to one of the big banks, this Main Street Bond allows for you to have the investors be your neighbors, your family, everyone else, and they get a share in a chunk of that pie.
It really does kind of then become um, a community business. You're, investing in your neighbors. I love that concept. So, um, are you working nationally, internationally, regionally? What's the scale of operation?
Yep. So for Main Street Bond, I work nationally within, and I should say, um, well, since the hockey game the other day, I guess they might not be our too friendly neighbors up north, but I go through the US and Canada. For Mountain Crest Investment Partners, I invest internationally, and for my family office partner, I also invest internationally.
Yeah, we could talk about the hockey game because I have a number of fellow coaches that are up in Canada, and there's a lot of rib poking back and forth about how the next game's gonna go. So,
Well, I think they learned their lesson not to boo the national anthem. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
three fights in the first 9 seconds. That was a heck of a hockey game right there.
yeah. I mean, it was yeah. By the 10th second, all the fun stuff was over, right? But so, so we're kind of in the same. We have the same goal in mind of fostering and growing businesses and helping people along their journeys. Let's dive right into the deep end of the pool and talk about what do you think their biggest challenge for an aspiring entrepreneur or somebody in their first year is right now? What are some of them?
So this is the same kind of approach I take to every entrepreneur is the first question that I ever ask them, and you can ask every company that I've ever invested in or helped with, what is the problem that you're trying to solve? If you cannot articulate that, then you're as good as a boat without an engine in the water, right? Or a car without an engine on the road, because you're not going to be able to attract people to your business. Now, once that is solved, then it becomes how much can you sell it? You know, we've all seen The Wolf of Wall Street. I hate using it, but if there's a demand for it, like, he says, sell me this pen, right?
Right,
You might have the most epic SaaS software, most epic backpack or anything else. If people are not willing to pay a profitable price for your product, you can't do that. So always ask the problem they're solving and how they're making money off of solving the problem. The
right.
next thing that I always go through is corporate governance and partnership agreements. I've been through some bad partnerships. I think all of us have. Anyone that's been around the rodeo or around the business world and done that rodeo, you'll know that having a bad partnership, it's not going to be your first rodeo and it's not going to be your last, but you always want to make sure that it's set up correctly. So those are the top three that I kind of really mentor and guide people on.
That's interesting because it honestly for businesses that are just where I start is getting them to define clarity. Um, you know, where do you want to go? Let's establish what that vision is. What are the core values that are driving the business? And then where are you at now? So we can establish what that gap is and how we're going to get there from here. Um, let's talk a little bit about the innovation space and how technology is maybe changing the game with how you help these businesses. Anything with AI or what's happening with technology that you're incorporating that's maybe different and new?
Yeah, so I was an early adopter of AI. My big thing is that I think 95% of middle managers don't need to exist. They just add a layer of complexity, and with some of the tools that are being developed, really even that, you know, beginner level analyst is beginning to disappear. Now, I'm going to preface this. I don't see AI replacing a lot of the soft skills and a lot of the leadership that is needed for businesses. You can make great uh, great data-driven decisions with everything that you can get from AI. Like when I go through and consult for a company, previously you'd ask for 5 years of financials, you'd go through, audit it, go through and figure out the discrepancies. I can now do that in 20 minutes by dropping it into one of my AI tools. So that beginning level analyst isn't going to be needed as much anymore. But what is going to be needed is the ability to transform that data into actionable steps for a business. I.e., like, hey, your marketing spend is low comparative to all of your competitors. Therefore, your ROAS or your return on ad spend, you're not getting the volume because you're basically getting out competed in the marketplace, right? Most people, when they look at that data, yeah, you can get all these data decisions, but it's all like, hey, maybe you're not advertising in the right place. And that's where those soft skills come in, where it's, hey, I know this market where if I'm going to be selling a Game Boy, or a Game Boy like device, I'm not going to be selling it to a 6 and a 7 year. I'm going to be selling it to, people between the ages of 25 and 40 because that's where the nostalgic being of a Game Boy was. And then they get the chance to introduce their children to it. And that's where the next step comes, where you're marketing the games towards those children.
It's interesting, you mentioned the L word, leadership, and a lot of that middle management that we talk about, that's where they get it. Where do you see in this next generation? I will go ahead and throw it out there that I think there's a new generation of how we're going to do business. We don't know what it looks like yet, but I think it's a very rapidly evolving landscape. And I've had quite a few people on the podcast that have talked about the lack of leadership development and the lack of um, conscious effort to teach those soft skills. Where do you see that fitting in, or how does it fit in with what you do?
So one thing, like I'll always go back to my military service. That's where I learned a large majority of my leadership skills. I mean, you're taking care of other people's lives at that point. Um, the biggest disconnect I've seen in the corporate world and in the business world is people are scared of getting replaced and they don't have that natural career progression. So if you actually look at kind of the middle management structure and the corporate structure, people are going to get promoted to where they're just capable enough, right?
Right.
And they're going to stay there. So if I am a quick producer and I get promoted to, let's say, vice president at a company or president of a company, I'm never going to have a chance to move on to the CEO role. And then I become super comfortable in that president role. I roll it out for 20 years, but I don't want to teach any of these young guys or gals how to do my job, because then they might have a talent pool better than me or talents better than me, and they'll replace me. My entire ideal is I want people two down from me to be able to do my job and one up from me to do my job. And I think everyone in a company should have that mentality, from the CEO down.
That's interesting. I was having a conversation with someone just last week about that very thing. Is that the first half of your career you're cutting each other's throat to get ahead in the game. And it's not until the latter part of your career that you start to realize that it's really about training your replacement and building people up. It's not it's not getting that day in the sunlight. It's about building something that's bigger than you. And there's a lot of people that don't learn it at all, and many people that learn it too late um, in their careers, especially in the military as well. Is that um, they lose that mentorship mentality, or they never develop it.
Well, and that's one of the key things. Anytime I'm even consulting for a business, helping run one of these ventures, investing, like I set up some type of training program for leadership because you can't have all your eggs in one basket, right? Like even with all of my businesses, everyone knows what I'm doing all the time because, knock on wood, tomorrow I could be out walking and get hit by a bus and be in the hospital for 6 months. Do I want my businesses
Salt
or
Lake.
my exactly, you know, uh, they hit an ice patch, I get hit by it, and I'm out of commission for 6 months. Do I want my business to die in 6 months, or do I want to have the people there to step in, fill my shoes, and if they do a really great job, I can move on to something bigger and better.
I love it. A lot of good words. So a chance for the shameless plug. How can people find you?
Yeah. So one, they can go to LinkedIn. Pretty easy to find on LinkedIn. The only Kenneth Brenneman. It says Army and Wall Street veteran. You can also go to Mountain Crest Investment Partners .com or myfamilyofficepartner.com.
Another shameless plug opportunity. Are you hired? And if so, who?
I'm currently hiring for my family office partner. We're looking at portfolio analysts. After I just talked about AI replacing analysts, there still are some things that need to have the human touch, especially when you're looking at deals, right?
Yeah.
The one big thing about, and going back to what I was talking about with AI, is AI can replace almost everything except for that gut feeling you have. A lot of investors like me, I have lists of companies that I wish I would have invested in. And I've learned that gut feeling, is more often right than wrong. So that's one of the things that I'm trying to bring forward in this analyst community that I'm building is use the data, but also, use your heart and your gut. Sometimes, look at Mark Zuckerberg. How many times did Facebook get turned down until it was, you know,
Right.
crazy successful? Look at, and I know he's kind of a polarizing figure right now, but Elon Musk, after he sold PayPal, at times he was borrowing money for rent because he was just investing all of his money into his most recent ventures. So just giving those people that decision-making capability.
Yeah, and I think it's an important note that really at the end of the day, you're investing in people. It's not just it's not a widget. You're investing in the vision and the spirit of what that business owner and what the value proposition of the company really is. And that is the part that the computer's not going to tell you. So, um, well, folks, everybody that's watching this episode, check out Kenneth Brenneman. He's got a ton of stuff going on. If you haven't figured it out yet, I mean, wow, it's impressive, and my hat's off to you for what you're doing and the spirit that you're bringing to the game. So, thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Jeff. Maybe we'll do another one here pretty quick
Yeah,
when some of these
yeah.
things pop. So
Yeah, no, we'll definitely look into that. All right, so everybody watching Navigating to Success, this is a heck of a business journey still underway, and not expected to maybe a few ports of call along the way, but I don't think the ship's going to stop moving anytime soon. Really appreciate the time, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Ken.
thanks, Jeff.